Hi, Daryl.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 8s from Lillestrøm, Norway, and welcome to the Automobile Gallery and Event Center. I'm here with my friend Daniel Moss, who you know very well, and among the 30,000 square feet of display space we have here at the Automobile Gallery and Event Center, this is one of the special displays. You might say it truly is a one of one. In 1969, Oldsmobile made 33,387 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser station wagons. This is the only one that's famous. This appeared on the television show That 70's Show from 1998 to 2006, and we are very proud to be the permanent home of That 70's Show Vista Cruiser. We had a major unveiling in the last 4 weeks or so. People from all over the Midwest came in for that. It has been around the country on national tour. And again, it is a television star in its own right, even though it never uttered a single word of dialogue. It was in every episode of the 200 That 70's shows, and it's never stopped airing. After 2006, it went into syndication, and I got some of the figures from September alone. 14 million people saw That 70's Show in the month of September. So it's a show that just continues on. And here in the United States, it's one of the top 20 sitcoms ever produced. So along with that, we have some other famous things down this way here as well. As you see to your left, we have a VW bus, and over here to my right, we have a Milburn Electric. So those of you who think Elon Musk invented the electric car, I'm sorry to say that this is back in 1917. This is believed to be one of 50 left in the world. It has 14 batteries, 8 in front, 6 in the rear, all 6 volt. And Milburn, if you are familiar with agriculture at all, agriculture I should say, the Milburn Wagon Company evolved into the Oliver Tractor Company, which was a famous tractor company here in the United States back in the 40s and 50s. And then the Milburn Wagon that turned into the Milburn Electric car was purchased by a company called General Motors in 1923. As you see, the vestiges of the wagon itself, so literally the driver sits behind the passengers and has to look around them, but that's the way wagons were built back in the day in 1917. This particular one spent its entire life on Richard Rice tobacco plantation in the state of North Carolina here in the United States. Keeping in the General Motors theme, we have the 1918 Dort Speedster. Gentleman by the name of Dort and Durant formed General Motors back in the day, and this was Mr. Dort's personal race car. It has the ability to reach speeds in excess of 100 miles per hour. And notice all the safety equipment on this car. No seat belts, a windshield that is barely that big around, and I can only imagine what a tremendous ride that was back in 1918, going 100 miles an hour in a vehicle that was hard enough just to stay on board. Interestingly enough, this is a German Kugelwagen. Ferdinand Porsche designed it for the German Army back in World War II days. This is a 1943 version of this, and the reason that we have it here at the gallery is this vehicle has starred in multiple Academy Award-winning movies, including The Great Escape with Steve McQueen, The Longest Day, and The Guns of Navarone. All 3 won Academy Awards, so this has been a huge star. And most recently, 2 other Kugelwagens were in Valkyrie with Tom Cruise, if you remember that film from a few years ago. It is 100% authentic because of its use in movies, and I might say it's so authentic that that is actually a live machine gun on the nest there. What was amazing to me about this vehicle is it is a 2-wheel drive vehicle, but it was just as effective as the United States Jeeps that were 4-wheel drive. The other thing that I find very fascinating, and Daniel, if you want to look down here, this was so sophisticated that the tire tread is such that you can't tell whether the vehicle is coming or going. And that was very strategic back in the day. So it's really fascinating to see some of the touches that were built into this vehicle. And now as we turn around, we start to see the opening to the only James Bond collection in the history of the state of Wisconsin here in the United States. To our right is the Triumph Stag. And if you remember the Triumph Stag at all, it had an 8-cylinder engine. And it just was introduced too soon. And even though it starred in the movie with Sean Connery, Diamonds Are Forever, the back orders flooded in. However, the problems with the 8-cylinder engine were such that the warranty issues here in the United States cost more than it was worth to import the cars. So this is one of the very few in the history of the United States to have its original engine, its original body, and everything has been sorted and finished. But obviously it should have been a huge hit, and because of the warranty issues with the 8-cylinder engine, ends up being a conversation piece at the Automobile Gallery and Event Center. To our right here, we have the authentic watches that were used in the various Bond films over the years. Omegas, Rolex, obviously, Tag Heuer, all have been used at various times during the filming of the James Bond movies. And so everything in this display really has to lend itself to the authenticity of the Bond collection. How we came by this, and I worked on this collection for over 7 years with Doug Redenius, the founder of the Ian Fleming Foundation. It was always somewhere else in the world, London, Germany, on display. And finally, after 7 years, more than 7 years, the stars all aligned and we were able to secure this collection. I'm very proud of the fact that everything in this collection was actually used in Bond films. They aren't just what we call posers or beauty shots that are used in the films. And as we look at it, the iconic Jaguar XKR from the famous ice chase scene in the 2002 movie Die Another Day. This is operable. I've actually had the good pleasure to drive this car. It is four-wheel drive, I might add too. The engine has been pushed back into the dash area to allow for adding a drive to the front. So this is the only Jaguar XKR four-wheel drive version ever made, and it was because it had to be geared so low to be able to film the ice scenes or the chase scenes with Pierce Brosnan going across the lake. This, I might say, and it comes without explanation, that if you take this out into city streets, you quickly gain the attention of the local police, because anything driving down the street with a machine gun mounted on the back is always going to be a source of conversation with the authorities. But we're very, very pleased to have it. And then behind it, the second most famous Bond car ever, the Floating Lotus. Roger Moore made it famous, and outside of the Goldfinger DB5, the Lotus Esprit submarine from 1977, The Spy Who Loved Me, is the most famous. Now, what's even better is the story behind it. Colin Chapman, who then owned Lotus, very much wanted to have Lotus in the Bond films. But of course, Aston Martin had a very strong relationship with the producers, the Broccoli family, and Harry Saltzman. So Colin Chapman hatched a scheme where he found out where the producers of the Bond film, specifically The Spy Who Loved Me, were having lunch. And he hid out in the bushes and strategically parked the new Lotus, which had not been seen yet by the public, right in front of the restaurant. When the producers came out, they were mesmerized by this beautiful car parked right in front. Suddenly, Colin Chapman materialized in front of their eyes, and in that moment, worked out a deal for the car to be in the Bond film, and subsequently was in several James Bond films after that. So the ingenuity of Colin Chapman really came through. Over here, we have the famous Q-boat. from The World Is Not Enough. And my favorite story about this, if you saw the movie, Pierce Brosnan goes underwater in the Q-boat. That was never in the original script. This Q-boat, which by the way is operable, as are all of the vehicles we have in here, in a film there's a lot of downtime, as you well know. Well, during one of the downtimes, the stunt driver who was driving it was just messing around, and he went underneath the water and popped back up. The director was on the far side of the bank. He sees this, immediately calls the stunt driver over, who thought he was in big trouble. When he got over there, the director said, "Did you do that on purpose?" And he said, "Yes." "Could you do it again?" "Well, sure, I can do it as many times as you like." So it ended up being in the film, and one of the iconic scenes was Pierce Brosnan going down into the water and popping back up. But you could take this out onto any body of water right now, and she runs just as beautifully as she did in the film way back in 1999. We have several other pieces throughout here, but this is the Parahawk. If you remember the famous scene, it's just what was seemingly hundreds of Parahawks came flying down through. This is actually a military vehicle that is used to great effect by the British military. The only secret that I'm going to give away about this, though, is in the film they are really fast. In reality, not very fast at all. In fact, if you're in good shape, you might be able to outrun this on foot, but it made for a great scene in the film. Now, Daniel, if you want to follow me over here to a couple of models. These are Agora models from a company in England. These are so precise that they are $2,500 unassembled, and it takes a full year for assembly to occur for the Lotus Esprit submarine car, and then obviously the iconic DB5. And every month you get shipped the parts to assemble. All of these are so true to form that the dashes light up, everything comes out from the bumper, all the tricks, they're just fabulously done. And these are on loan to us by Agora so that we can show them off to all of our visitors from around the world. And then over here we have the jet. Now, this is a jet that was actually used in the movie. When I say actually used in the movie, the Ian Fleming Foundation actually owns the real jet, which unfortunately was too large to put in here. But this was used in the film itself. Now, we're going back to 1964 now in Goldfinger. On one side it says the United States, on the other side it's in Russian. And so Sean Connery and the Bond girl get out of this side of the jet in the film, and then to shoot the Russian scenes, they got out the other side of the jet. But they use this for close-ups to simulate the jet in the air. And then this is also the answer to two great trivia questions. Who else flew in this jet besides James Bond? And the answer, Muhammad Ali took this jet to the Thrilla in Manila, the most famous fight in history. And a singer you might remember by the name of Elvis Presley flew on this jet to a concert in Las Vegas back in the early 70s. So the jet has a history beyond this, and I'm actually working on a plan to get the actual jet here to be on display as well. But until then, the model that was used in the film Goldfinger will have to do. Over here, right on the other side, we have what is called a switchblade, and this is, again, used in military maneuvers by the British government. When shot out of the back of a helicopter, the wings come out, and it allows you to fly, as I understand it, under radar in enemy territory. But what I love about this, again, is the backstory. And Die Another Day in the year 2002, so that they looked identical. Pierce Brosnan and Halle Berry are different sizes, so they made a special Parahawk to fit Halle Berry so that it looked like they were the same size, even though hers was much smaller due to her petite size. This one happens to be the one Pierce Brosnan wrote on in the film, and the storyboards that we have here detail all of that. But they are fascinatingly true to form. I mean, to be able to be used in true military maneuvers and then be adapted for the film is truly amazing to me. And the same thing for the wet bike. You know, you look at these things now and you go, oh, well, you know, this is nice. Well, the world had never seen anything like this in 1977. The response to The Spy Who Loved Me in '77 was so amazing that the company actually went into production on the wet bike. So when you see these films the next time, you're seeing things that have never been seen before until they came out in that James Bond movie, and it changed everything. Which leads me to this, speaking of changing everything, this is perhaps the most expensive Aston Martin ever built. It was built for one scene in The Living Daylights, merely to show the skis coming out and the spikes coming out on the tires. So, built for one single scene. And that leads us to a car that you would not expect to see in a Bond film, but it is a Citroen, which is very, very familiar, from 1981 for Your Eyes Only. Now, the director was so tired of seeing fast cars in movies, in chase scenes, that he wanted to do something entirely different. So they picked probably the most unlikely chase car in history, the Citroen 2CV, mocked it up so that a cinematographer would be strapped in on the platform. They hooked this to a trailer and traveled at high rates of speed, so it wasn't any CG, green wall, any of that. It actually was the film, and the director by the name of John Glenn created one of the greatest chase scenes in movie history using the most unlikely chase scene car. And this is it here. This is the actual one. I can only imagine what it must have been like to be the cinematographer strapped in on this, traveling at high rates of speed through the twisties in the mountains. So with that, we have many other pieces here, the motorcycles used in the Bond films and the like, and all. We are so honored to have this display for a year, and talks are already underway to extend it and bring other items in from the Ian Fleming Foundation, and we're so honored to have those, and so honored to be able to display them for our visitors from around the world. So I thank you so much for being part of this tour, and to my friend Daniel Moss behind the camera here, I hope you get a chance to come over and see us, and I hope even more that I get a chance to come over and see you. Have a great day.